Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Look up on the wall, there on the floor, under the pillow.
Good Tuesday morning. Fall has arrived in a big way. The Tigers on Saturday dominated, as they should, against Chattanooga. I think for viewing as a whole what we were going to expect, I think it lived up to the billing. The quarterback looked pretty good. The defense looked like it had a lot of depth. You lost to Wozier for a minute there, but it didn't really matter because a kid named Frank Pizant, I don't know if he's Italian or French. Could be from Pisa. Anyway, the kid looked pretty good, the transfer from Middle Tennessee. Bodiford looked good, and, of course, Sutton Smith was outstanding. He's recovered from his ACL. This could be fun. We'll see as the Tigers go to Atlanta to take on a Georgia State team that got absolutely massacred by Ole Miss. Now, they got a new addition. A quarterback who will be playing for his sixth college team. His name, TJ Finley. Will he play? I'm going to talk a little bit about that with Jonah Dillon. Well, we may actually talk with Ron Higgins about that in the second segment of this program because our wonderful SEC historian, he saw Finley up close because he was an LSU quarterback. This kid, he started at LSU, went to Auburn, then Texas State, then he went to Western Kentucky. Then he transferred to Tulane, got caught in a stolen car, in possession of a stolen car. I don't know if he stole it. I don't know what the deal is. He got suspended from Tulane. As soon as he got suspended, he entered the transfer portal. According to some reports, he's been in Atlanta since last May. He did not play in the game against Ole Miss. He could play because they announced he's part of the team now. He could play on Saturday against the Tigers. If that makes a big deal of difference, I don't know, because they gave up 63 points. They've got two running backs that have Memphis ties, too. One was in camp and then transferred, Rashad Amos, who also played for Ole Miss. And then the kid was, I think, a pretty good recruit who committed to Memphis, and then I don't believe he ever came, and that is T.J. Payton, one of those two. So there'll be a little flavor here of some familiarity, but that should be a fun game. In the meantime, Ohio State should be number one when the poll comes out. They deserve it. Tennessee apparently has the better quarterback in the trade with UCLA. If you look to see what Aguilera did, and then you look to see what Iamaleava did against decent competition. I'm not going to downplay that, but UCLA looked terrible in that game. I'll tell you who looked pretty good, though. Mike Norvell is back in business. He had speed. He had physicality. I don't know what's happened to Alabama. I was listening to Todd Blakemeyer with the guys this morning, and he says that during the Saban tenure, at the end of it, there was a decline in physicality, maybe some speed. That certainly looked to be the case. This does not look like Alabama from a few years ago, and Mike Norvell made commitments financially this year to players that apparently can play, and it is a good sight for those that love Tallahassee because they were pretty good. I'll tell you, LSU could be the national champion. They got the quarterback. They got the physicality. They've got a defense that could win championships. Really impressed with them, and I'm in agreement. I think they should be number 2 this week. We shall see. Miami looked pretty good. I did not expect that from Notre Dame. Makes me wonder because last year I thought Notre Dame got the benefit of the doubt on where they were placed, their seeding, and everything else because they had lost to Northern Illinois. They didn't play the hardest schedule in the world. The way they started off makes you think. But you never really know. Here's the deal with these kinds of things. Who knows how good Syracuse really is? Did Aguilar look great because that's a lousy defense, or is he really good? You never know. How good is Chattanooga? Does Memphis look really dominating because this team, which almost made the FCS playoffs last year, is this team just not good? You never know from game one. Here's what we are going to know for sure. Landon Schmidt, and we're going to hear from Steve Earhart here in a few minutes. What we do know for sure is the Tigers are going to play Arkansas in a basketball game. They're going to give you the date here in about an hour. John Calipari in town. He'll be at FedEx Forum. I'm going to rush after this to go try to see these guys. Penny Hardaway will be there. They will announce this game, and I guess they'll announce how you can buy tickets because I don't think you're going to buy the tickets through Memphis. Don't hold me to that. I don't really know, but I think you got to go through St. Jude because the proceeds are going to St. Jude. That's just me guessing. We're going to find out for sure at 11 o'clock when the press conference begins down at FedEx Forum. So, we got lots to unwrap today. It really was an outstanding weekend. There were 5 straight days of college football. That part was a lot of fun. Also in the mix, real quick, before we start talking all this football with our good friend, the Big Cheese and the head honcho from the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Steve Earhart. Ryder Cup teams now totally announced with all the picks that are in. Here's Team USA. Scotty, number 1 player in the world. I hope he goes up against Rory a bunch because I think Rory will fold like he did against Brooks Koepka a few years ago at Southwind. Scotty, Xander Schauffele, who's not been very good at the end. J.J. Spawn, newcomer. Bryson DeChambeau, the only live player on the U.S. team. Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Cam Young, Harris English, Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas. Good collection, no question. But here's the Euros. Rory. Robert McIntyre, who's really come on hard at the end. Tommy Fleetwood, we know how good he was in the playoffs. Justin Rose won here over Spawn in a playoff. It was a little prelude maybe to these Ryder Cup games. You have Tyrell Hatton. You have Ramses Højgaard. You've got Shane Lowry. You've got John Rahm. You've got Sepp Straka, Victor Hovland, Ludwig Oberg, Matthew Fitzpatrick. On paper, ladies and gentlemen, the Euros are the better team. Hate to say it, never thought I'd see it. The Euros are the better team. What you got is home course advantage. Bethpage Black, American fans, they will be rowdy. I've heard from several people, media people, fans, that have gone to all kinds of events like World Championship prize fights, World Series, Super Bowls. They say the greatest experience, the best fan interaction competition is the Ryder Cup. And the Americans are going to need that home course advantage. And maybe that'll do it because home course advantage has been big in the Ryder Cup the last 10 years, 5 times they've played, 6 times they've played. Because on paper, it's evident to me, European Ryder Cup golf is the better squad. Speaking of golf, Miramichi was there over the weekend, played there. Greens in great shape now. Fairways in great shape now. A couple tee boxes probably need to be worked on, but other than that, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, those back 9 with those hills and the stream and the waterfall and everything else. It is the true golf experience from competition to beauty. You can move up on the tee boxes. You got plenty. The best practice facilities there are of any public golf course. And I will say the public golf courses have done a better job of building driving ranges now. But this place, it's truly a practice complex. It's very cool. And It's open now on Mondays. The best day to get a rate is on Thursday, and it's only 25 minutes from East Memphis. It's in Woodstock, not Millington. Go check it out. You'll thank me later. You'll love the clubhouse and the service and all the people. That's Miramichi, the true golf experience. Let's head just across the way to the offices of the AutoZone Liberty Bowl and the Big Cheese, the head honcho Steve Earhart, who was at the Tigers game with Chattanooga. Your thoughts about the Tigers' first victory and Brandon Lewis and running backs and both sides of the football more dominant in the trenches. Good morning.
Yeah, well, David, glad to be here with you, and what a great opening weekend. And I thought the Tigers looked good. I was down on the field for the first quarter and was trying to take a good look, as you say, in the trenches. And I think those big old offensive and defensive linemen are better than in years past. They seem to be moving well, and of course, opening some big holes. Of course, they had big weight advantage, and we'll see as the season goes on. But I was impressed with the guys in the trenches. And then, of course, Sutton Smith, what a great young man to come back from that injury. When he made that nice run for the touchdown, it reminded me of a couple of years ago in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Remember when he took that short swing pass and went 55 yards, deked out several Iowa State players, and that was one of the key touchdowns in that victory for the Tigers. So I hope he's going to have a good, long, full 13-game season this year, and if he stays healthy, I think the Tigers have a real, playmaker there with him. So, yes, I was impressed with the team. Quarterback didn't make any big mistakes. I think he can get better, as he said in his press conference, but they need to be serious about this game against Georgia State because remember Georgia State beat Vanderbilt last year when Vanderbilt had a pretty good season, with Pavia and beat Alabama, so they need to be serious about that. And here's a real twist. I was just looking at it, and it's like a pro football mercenary. T.J. Finley, some of the Tiger fans may remember him from his days at Tulane, but he signed this week his sixth collegiate team now. But to give him credit, he's already a graduate, so hopefully he'll be taking a few classes there at Georgia State. But he reminds me of a major league baseball relief pitcher signed for a couple of games, and we'll see whether they keep him throughout the season.
Well, he's from Louisiana, and he's been to the two biggest schools in Louisiana. He started his career at LSU. Then he actually went to Auburn, Texas State.
Right.
Then Western Kentucky. Then he transferred to Tulane, got into some troubles with a stolen car where he was in possession of it. I have no idea how he got that. He might have bought a car that he didn't know was stolen, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And then, they're saying he was in Atlanta since May, but I don't know why he signed this week, but he did. And the Tigers could face him. I don't know if they will play him right away, but why wouldn't you when you only scored one touchdown against Ole Miss? That same team that beat last year, Vandy, and you're right about that. That was shocking. That's the same team that got beat 63-7 by Ole Miss this past weekend. But you got to take every team seriously, and this is on the road.
Right, and Finley's a giant. I can remember. I think he's like 6'7" and 260 pounds, and he's a big man. I think everybody's talked about his great potential. I think he played pretty well at Texas State and Western, but there was always something a little bit off. But yeah, beware. The guy has some talent, but you're hit it right on the head. The Tigers need to be serious about going in there, and whenever you're playing on the road on a team that you think, well, maybe they just got whipped the week before, so. Looking forward to a Tigers victory there as they get primed and ready for, coming up. They got Troy on the road and then back home for their big matchup at Arkansas. But what a great week for the American Conference because now folks around the country, and that's important as the American teams start getting some votes, whether it's Tulane or whether it's Navy or South Florida and their big victory there over Boise State and the Tigers winning handily. So, this is an important few weeks for the Tigers.
Let me ask you, out of the American games, which do you think was more prestigious, bigger, however you want to put it? I know it was most helpful to the U of M that USF beat Boise because they play them at home, but then they play Tulane at home too, and they beat Northwestern. Which win, in your mind, was more impressive?
Well, the quarterback down at South Florida, what an impressive. He's had great, talent, if you want to say it. He's never quite shown it, but he really played well. And it's certainly a quarterback-driven game, whether it's at the NFL level or at the collegiate level. Look what the Haynes King, the quarterback for Georgia Tech, did against Colorado in that telecast. Look at what the quarterback there at Florida State did. So when you have a quarterback that can make plays, both scrambling, finding receivers late in the progression, and being accurate, not making on mistakes. So I guess I would say that the South Florida, although whenever an American team beats a Big Ten team like Tulane did, that's a big deal. So I would think that Tulane, as well as South Florida, and to some degree Navy, and maybe if Memphis can get on a little bit of a roll before they play Arkansas, start climbing up the polls there, and that's very important because remember that the team from the G5, if that's what we're going to still call it, or the G6, with the highest-ranked champion gets the automatic berth in the playoffs. And last year it kind of came down between Boise State, who was the champion of the Mountain West. They beat out, I think, what was it, Army was the champion of
right.
the American last year.
Tulane
so Army
won that, well, nobody was going to beat Boise. Boise earned it last year, and they had the star in Genty that everybody wanted to see. So I don't think that was ever really in doubt. This year, though, I would have to say, they got to play Miami and they got to play Florida, right? South Florida does.
That's right.
If they were to win those games and become the champion, they in my mind are the ones with the best positioning with their fate in their own hands. But Memphis gets them at home.
And you hit it right on the head. It's a perfect schedule for the Memphis Tigers this year because they have those three contenders all at home. They got South Florida. I think that's the homecoming game, isn't it, for the Tigers? So that'll be a big game. And then late in the year, they have both Navy. Of course, they stumbled there last year at Navy. And then the last game of the year is the Tulane game, if I recall the schedule right. So what a great break. If Memphis can win the championship and win because Tulane and, like we said, and Navy as well as South Florida, they've got some respect. So if Memphis wins those games, then I think you're right that they win the conference and they'll be the team to get into the playoffs.
There were some shocking results. I personally did not see Notre Dame losing at Miami the way they lost. I didn't see Mike Norvell's team out-physicaling, out-speeding the Alabama Crimson Tide. I didn't see TCU just absolutely pulverizing Bill Belichick the way they did. But the other was Army. Army, that had been in the conversation by some to win the American, loses to tiny Tarleton State in double overtime, 30-27. Now, I think Army had some losses from last year's really good team, but that's shocking.
Well, and I think maybe I talked to you earlier about it, David, but the problem that the service academies have now is, remember, they cannot pay NIL or they don't have this $20 million revenue sharing. I mean, those young men and women, they go to the service academies and they sign up, they get their education paid, but then they have to do their 5-year service. However, there's a loophole. After the second year, before they start their third year, they can transfer and take the NIL money. So the AD that left Army said, we're not going to be able to keep the 4 or 5 playmakers who do really well. And a young man that finishes and does well for Army or Navy in the first couple of years, and somebody offers him $500,000 to $1 million to go play, and that's what happened to the Army running back who was so good last year is gone. So that didn't really, well, it is a surprise that they lost to Tarleton State, but they're not going to be as good as they were last year. I think Navy, though, because their their quarterback had already passed that 2 years. I think Blake Horvath, isn't that his name? The quarterback that beat Memphis last year, he's still there. So I think Navy will be at least competitive this year, but it's going to be tough on the service academies to stay competitive with the big guys. But yes, that was a surprise, but I think, as I say, there's still going to be plenty of good competition from Tulane, Navy, South Florida, and you're right, and that was a big surprise that Army lost. But I think the conference looks strong going forward. But, there were some big, I might say upsets, but we should have listened to our old great friend Lee Corso. And I know you were close friends with Lee, and you helped bring Lee here when we honored him with our distinguished citizen award. He called every game right across the board. He called the win in the Notre Dame game. He called the win in the South Carolina game. He called obviously Florida State and Ohio State. And they were talking about if you'd have just taken the Lee Corso 6 picks, and several of those went against the other supposed smart pickers there on game day, you would have had a parlay that would have returned you like 100-1 or something like something crazy.
He took Florida State, but he did that because that's his alma mater, his
Right.
school. Then
Yeah.
he took LSU,
Ohio.
which was pretty smart. He did
Right.
take Ohio State at home, and you knew he was going to do that because he was right on the 50-yard line, for goodness sake.
Sure.
But I think it was beautiful the way ESPN let him go out. The guy's 90 years old. He had a stroke a few years ago, and he wasn't quite the guy that he was, or at least I think he still had the sharps, but the communication wasn't quite as good, and yet they stayed with him for all these years because they realized how much he had meant to building up the sport of college football. That was really beautifully pointed out by ESPN. They don't do this all the time. There's only a couple of people that I have seen that giant company really been loyal to and catered to and had an understanding of their importance. That is Dick Vitale and Lee Corso. And there's not many others that they have done that for.
Well, and you were right, but a lot of it, too, was in addition to the Disney companies, it was the greatness and the kindness of Lee Corso. And Dave, I remember when you helped, out to bring Lee here for our Citizen Award, and remember that was the time when he spoke so eloquently. Those of your listeners that might have joined us that night for that dinner over at the Hilton, when Lee said when he got fired from coaching, he coached quite a few years, whether it was Indiana, I can't remember all the other schools.
His picking record was better than his coaching record, I can tell you that.
But anyway, remember he said that all the university people, we'll call you, we'll get back to you. None of them did, but yet when he ran into some health problems with ESPN stayed absolutely loyal to him. I remember talking to the president of ESPN, then John Skipper, and they said it's because of the wonderful personality of Lee, and he just treated everybody so well. And I remember how much he respected you, and you worked it out to bring Lee here for our award there. So a lot of it was the company, but also it was because of what he did for college football basically really since his college days. I think a lot of people didn't realize what a good player he was at Florida State when he was roommates with Burt Reynolds, and he would tell all the great stories about with Reynolds bringing all the beautiful girls there. So, but what a wonderful guy, and again, a great tribute to Lee Corso this week.
It really was. All right. After the first week, I'm sure there will be bowl prognostications that will come out if they haven't already. Yeah. Who's coming to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl?
Well, I'll give you the 5 that have already come out this morning, and they're interesting. One ESPN's got Florida versus Kansas State. Possible.
I'd take that right now, buddy. I'd take it.
Yeah, that would be great. Another one's got Oklahoma versus TCU. Now,
wow.
I think Oklahoma is going to probably. Some people think they're going to be really good. Others think they're going to be kind of middle
we'll find out this week
SEC.
Against Michigan, won't we?
That's for sure. Then here's a game that I don't think it's it's Missouri versus Kansas State. Although Missouri plays Kansas this week, that was a matchup that we were hoping for. But since they're playing in the regular season. And then another one, Missouri versus Houston. I don't know really much about Houston. We'll have to watch Houston. And then here's the big win for Coach Freeze, Auburn versus Kansas State. We haven't had Auburn in our game since the days of Bo Jackson. So we'd love to have Coach Freeze return to Memphis with an Auburn team. So, and you look at Auburn's schedule.
Here's the question I have for you. Seriously, if they're in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, is Hugh Freeze their coach?
Well, if they make it to the bowl game, yes. I don't think Auburn will fire him if he's won. That's a big deal to make the bowl game. Now, some schools, like maybe in Alabama, when you're 6-7 wins, that's no good. But Auburn hasn't been to a bowl game in several years.
Let me just say this. Those folks at Auburn think they should be in the same sentence with Alabama. Don't forget that. Don't forget that, right. Steve Earhart.
Okay, we'll remember that. But I'm still hoping that Auburn, and if you look at the Auburn schedule, I think they're going to be bowl eligible. They should get wins the next couple of weeks. They got Ball State, South Alabama, but then they've got at Oklahoma, at Texas A&M, Georgia, Missouri. But then if they can pick up a couple more wins towards the end of the year with Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Mercer, and, of course, the Auburn-Alabama game on November 29th, then you're right. That may be that may be a coaching who survives that game, Auburn and Alabama, depending on their records. Says they'll be after the Alabama coach if he doesn't pick up a few more important wins.
The bottom line is he got Baylor in game one. That was a must-get to take all the pressure off. I think he did that and scored 38 points. So he's on his way. Steve, thank you so much as always. That would be a great game if it was Auburn and Kansas State, but who knows how this season is going to unfold. That is for sure. We'll talk next Tuesday.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. We're sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. A reminder, you got to help clear out the warehouse sale. That sale, I'm sure, is waning. I'm sure we're going to get some new information on some new things that are going to come your way. But go in and say, I want the 4-piece deep seating set because it's under $1,000. I want the chaise lounge where I get the second one for half price. The Pollywood furniture, 20 to 30% off. You buy a patio table, and by the way, a lot of this is 60% off. They give you a free umbrella. Those aren't cheap. It's a good deal with special financing available at Family Leisure, I-40 and Witten Road. We're heading down to Baton Rouge. Our friend Ron Higgins comes your way in just a minute right here on Wolo and Friends.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10 right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Guns, guns, and more guns. Over 700 firearms in stock. Home defense guns, old guns, new guns, used guns, big guns, little guns. Every gun you can think of, Classic Arms has them. All brands like Glock, Sig, Colt, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Browning, Beretta, Benelli, Remington, Winchester, and more. Guaranteed lowest prices in town. Only gun importer in the Mid-South. Free gun inspections and appraisals and free bore sighting for the upcoming deer season. Shop online at ClassicArmsOfMemphis.com or visit Classic Arms at 1740 Germantown Parkway behind Corky's Barbecue in Cordova.
Everything today is technologically based. Well, except maybe you. If you're struggling with tech, no matter what kind, call Tech For You. Tech For You for TVs, home theaters, cameras, smart locks, digital storage, and more. Tech For You makes it simple and affordable. Call 697-9695. Make your home safe, comfortable, and up to date with Tech For You. Stop struggling with tech. Call 697-9695. Veteran-owned and operated Tech For You. Technology simplified.
Mercedes-Benz Van Center Memphis has serious vans for serious work. At 4430 American Way, they are the Mid-South source for cargo, passenger, crew vans, and custom chassis. Need one or a full fleet? New or used, they've got it. With fleet solutions and custom upfits. Certified techs keep you moving with fast maintenance, repairs, and a large parts inventory. Mercedes-Benz Van Center is your Sprinter Van headquarters. 901-237-9302 or sprintervans.com. Mercedes-Benz Van Center Memphis, part of the Tag Truck Center family. Driven to keep you on the road.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
One bit of internal business before we head to Baton Rouge. Our SEC historian Ron Higgins, he's got a big smile on his face after that LSU Clemson game, I am sure. But Landon Schmidt, you and I differed on many of our picks this week in the 5 that we do every Friday now. Hard to believe there's only a 1-game difference. You were 2-3, I was 3-2. So I got you on Ohio State, Texas. You and I both missed on Alabama, Florida State, which I'm still shocked.
We missed big
about.
on that one.
Yeah. I had LSU. You had Clemson, so I got you on that one. You had Miami. How you saw that one, I'm still not sure, but you did a great job on that. I can't believe Notre Dame got handled that way.
I was surprised as well.
And then we both had TCU. So 2-3, 3-2. The games will continue on Friday. Thank you much. In the meantime, let's head down to Baton Rouge. Ron Higgins, did LSU play better than even you thought? That was pretty good down at the other Death Valley.
Yeah, the only thing I was worried about was the offensive line because, they hardly it's an all-new offensive line. A couple of guys have started like a game or two, but the rest of them are brand new. And I worried about chemistry on the offensive line. And they held up, man. They kept Nussbaum pretty clean. They did enough in the run game to where he didn't have to, throw every down. and obviously, I mean that really they had 10 more points on the board. They missed a field goal. Then the touchdown they took off was absolutely stunning. It was such a bad call universally that it is still today. I'm going to ask Brian Kelly about it today because it says his press conference. They were off yesterday.
Well, they brought that up, actually. Herb Street and Reese Davis, they brought it up last night because they were trying to kill time with anything they could think of in the TCU North Carolina game. But they brought it up again, how that play was so blown. Yeah,
and so I guess they were last night. They brought it up because no, maybe it was Miami Notre Dame I was watching, but they brought up in Miami Notre Dame too because the kid from Miami made that great one-handed catch.
Oh, that was
backwards.
Yeah, that was great.
And by the way, he was on LSU's team last year.
Was he really? Wow.
Yeah, he was a Hugh Freeze transfer from Liberty and transferred to LSU, so yeah. But I'm going to ask Kelly about it. Kelly after the game said, he really couldn't see on the sideline, blah blah blah. So I'm asking about today. I said, well, now that you've seen it, were there any? Did you follow any query with the SEC as to why that call was ruled that way? And see what he says. But other than that, I mean, the defense was outstanding. The defense was as good as I thought it'd be. I saw that defense in camp, and that defense made it hard for LSU's offense to move in camp. LSU's first team offense, and it kind of made you wonder all the practices we saw when the number one defense, number one offense. That man, is offense not that good, or is the defense, really that good? And it turned out to be the defense was really that good. And so, yeah, defense was as good as advertised. The offensive line played better, I thought. And I knew that team was going to take that game to the end. They were going to finish this game because last year's game they didn't finish at USC, and that was when Kelly pounded the table and talked about,
right.
This team finished, and so now they're 1-0, and now they got to go. I think the 1-0 thing that they preached all off season, I think they'll take it in every week now. We got to go 1-0 this week, not looking ahead. So yeah, they played great. His portal buys were excellent. Everybody at the portal, they thought the portal was great. For the first time in probably since 2019, they had a defense that really shut down a lot of stuff, especially the secondary. So LSU fans are happy today, but it's a new week, and you got to go. They got Louisiana Tech this week, and then they have Florida a week from now in Baton Rouge. So we'll carry on and see. But it was a fun really first weekend that mattered. Let's say that.
Oh yeah, they look like a team that is of championship caliber. In fact, if I were a voter, I know a lot of people think it's going to go Ohio State, Penn State. I think I would pick LSU second. Winning at Clemson against a good Clemson team that way, I would definitely elevate them a little bit. Speaking of LSU transfers, what's the first thing you think of when I mention the name TJ Finley?
He's transferred to more schools than Johnny Carson had wives.
That's good. This is his sixth school. Memphis is going to take him on if he plays when they go to Georgia State.
Oh yeah. I mean, TJ's been everywhere. I mean,
he started at LSU, went to Auburn, then Texas State, Western Kentucky, Tulane. Got into trouble in Tulane because of possession of a stolen car. They suspended him. He said, "Oh, you're not suspending me. I'm transferring." And now he's in Atlanta.
If he was a baseball player, his walk-up song would be "Papa Was a Rolling Stone." Okay.
Yeah, but he's a good player, isn't he?
He's a big kid, like 6'7", quarterback. He can fire the hell out of the ball. Not very athletic, but apparently he can athletic enough to move from team to team. And I don't think he's necessarily a bad dude. But I just, at LSU, I think at LSU really he lost his job to Max Johnson, who you saw last night come in for North Carolina.
Right.
And Max played well at LSU, but Max didn't want to stick around.
Max is a good story, but just because of who his dad was. I remember watching his dad play football and basketball at Florida State. He's that good of an athlete. And then that horrific accident that he had last year where they thought they might have to amputate his leg, and here he is back playing. And he looked much better than the starting quarterback at North Carolina.
Yeah. Max's last pass to LSU was a 27-yard game-winning touchdown pass against A&M with like 27 seconds left. So, Max can play. And I think people are he left LSU, I think people are happy for Max, especially what he's been through. I mean, like, he almost lost his leg this past year. Almost lost his leg. So you got to think I think he felt good last night watching, but that game was, But you know what I felt good about? I felt good about somebody as miserable as Bill Belichick is looking even more miserable. Oh, my goodness. I just it was lovely. It was a lovely thing to watch.
His post-press conference was classic.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, I don't know how you can play for a guy who looks that miserable all the time. Even Nick didn't look that miserable,
No.
I mean, this guy is the most dour-looking guy in the universe. And I don't know how you can coach college kids looking that just dour all the time. I really don't know. I mean, every once in a while you got to laugh or do something or smile a little bit. I mean, he doesn't even, get mad. It must be internal. You don't see him, chew on a player or nothing. It's just like he just stands there and, he's like this big computer bank trying to take it all in and see how he can win. You know what? There ain't no Tom Brady's in the house, Bill.
No, unless Max Johnson becomes that for him. This looks like it's going to be a long year because they have no physicality. Their line play is awful. They cannot I don't know how many missed tackles there were last night. That was bad.
They had a whole bunch of nothing.
Yeah.
It was stunning how bad that was. I thought the Miami Notre Dame game was a great game. Probably one of the best games of the weekend. It really was. I mean, I thought it was a great game.
Did that shock you? That Miami was that much better than Notre Dame?
A little bit. I mean, you don't know how good. You know how good. How Carson Beck is. He's solid. He's not spectacular, but he doesn't screw up very much. He's a solid quarterback. But Notre Dame's quarterback wasn't that bad in his first start. I just thought Miami, being fresh in the first game of the year and playing home, that was that's why I picked them. Even though I thought Notre Dame could also win the game. So honestly, really did.
How about Florida State and Alabama? I don't know what's happened to Alabama. They're not the speedy team they used to be. They've lost some physicality. I was listening this morning, and Blake Topmeyer, a colleague of yours who does a heck of a job on the SEC, he was saying that that aura, that physicality that Alabama had in the heyday of Nick Saban actually had diminished a bit at the end of his tenure, and that decline is carried over. How do you view that? Because they're not the same kind of ball club. And I think Kalen DeBoer's a good coach. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think he's a good coach, and he may yet be a good coach. But right now, you're just not used to seeing an Alabama team just go out there and basically, let's say, lay down, but they just never even got going that game. You never saw a hint of fire, nothing. And that's the time where, honestly, you need a head coach who's going to lay it to you. And Nick would have. And that could be the difference. I mean, everybody has their own coaching style, and I know that. And his is a lot more sedate than Nick. Well, most of America was more sedate than Nick. But sometimes I think players, I think the best thing about Nick was he knew his players so well. He knew he could really get on and how to back off other people. And I don't know if the board knows his players yet, if he cares to know his players like that. And I thought that was the genius of Nick. He knew his players inside and out, and he knew he could really get on, and he knew who could take what he said and use it, and sometimes he'd back off other people. And I think DeBoer is still feeling that process, but you can't come out and play that bad in your opener. You just can't. I mean, Alabama, their first opening loss was 2001, I think. But it wasn't just a loss; they just got absolutely slaughtered. And Alabama fans, they don't like getting beat. They don't like getting beat when they just get beat. As far as if they play decently and play pretty well and they get beat, they're upset. But when they come out and just get destroyed and look like they don't even care, that's when you really that's when your fan base really turns on you, and that's when you got to do something to win them all back the rest of the year. And I think that's what they got to do. I mean, they got to look different the rest of the year because they certainly didn't act like they carried the play against Florida State.
Last thing, Tennessee looks like they got the better of the deal in the trade with UCLA for Aguilar versus Iamaleava.
Absolutely. I thought the three best teams of the weekend for SEC was LSU and Tennessee and Auburn. I thought was a good one for Hugh Freeze. But yeah, Tennessee was clearly the better part of the deal because you watch UCLA, Nico really struggled. And this kid, Tennessee stepped in like the veteran he is, stepped in and played well. And Syracuse is not a bad team. They really aren't. I thought it'd be a closer game than that, honestly. The Syracuse in the past few years has played some pretty good football. But Tennessee really put on that. That was impressive. So, I mean, if I had to pick the three SEC teams that really stuck out, I'd say LSU and Tennessee and Auburn.
By the way, best game this week, Ole Miss, maybe Kentucky. There's Kansas and Missouri. That line's actually a little closer. Missouri is favored by 6.5. Ole Miss at Lexington, 10.5-point favorite. How do you think that game plays out?
I think Ole Miss wins, and I think they cover. Also, I just think Kentucky always seems to struggle offensively against everybody. It's just hard for them to score points, and that's not Ole Miss's problem. They can score points. I think they can do enough defensively to win that game. So I like Ole Miss in that one. And the other one you had, what was that?
Missouri, Kansas.
That's a really good game. Kansas quarterback is really good. Missouri's got a new quarterback. They played pretty well last week. It's at Missouri. I'll take Missouri.
Yeah, well, they beat the heck out of Central Arkansas. I don't know what you get from that, but they did look pretty strong in there. They just they put 60-something on them. Ron Higgins, as always, our SEC historian. We appreciate it. We will talk again next Tuesday. Thank you, buddy.
Well, take care. See you.
You too. That is our man, Ron Higgins. He's brought to you by Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Ken knows it's a big deal. You are about to build that dream home. Or maybe you don't want to leave your lot. You love where you are. You've been there forever, but you want modern amenities. You want the movie room. You want the island in the kitchen. You want the California closets. That's what they do. They take all the innovation, and that's what they use for renovation. And the next thing you know, that older home where you love living, it's a modern palace. Just go to kengarland.com, look at their website. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. These guys, third generation, been around over 80 years building beautiful homes or renovating homes throughout our history. Go see why they're the best when it comes to building a new home or getting that renovation with innovation. It's simply one name, Ken Garland. Back in a minute. We will head cross town. Our friend from the Commercial Appeal, the Tiger beat writer for football, that's Jonah Dillon, and he's next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Let's up your life with Let's.
Surprise the family with a new club car and experience the best golf cart in the industry. A new golf cart is perfect for cruising the neighborhood, enjoying yourself at the lake, turning heads on the course, and just having something reliable to use around the yard. Ladd's has you covered with new and used golf cars. The new Club Car Onward, available in electric or gas and a variety of colors and features. Ladd's goes beyond the green. Whitney I-40 or online at lads.net.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right and naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about everything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys, beyond the bottle, Tito's has gained a reputation for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits around the world to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's and learn more at Tito'sVodka.com. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Hey, this is Erin with Millington Weight Loss and Wellness. Are you struggling with your weight loss journey? At Millington Weight Loss and Wellness, we have our new Evolve X treatments that melts the fat, tightens the skin, and works the muscles all in the same treatment. And it's on a summer blast sale for $100. That's a $300 savings. We also have our GLP-1 semaglutide and trizepatide, NAD+, ProTrim Plus, and B12 lipo injections. Millington Weight Loss and Wellness is located off of Highway 51 in Millington, behind Pop's Barbecue. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Call us at 901-436-0272. We look forward to helping you with your weight loss journey.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
When you were gone, I turned to stone.
45-10, that's your final. Memphis a winner. Everybody was a winner except maybe Greg DeWolzier, who got hurt a little bit, but apparently is going to be okay. It's not a season-ending thing. The guy who covers the Tiger football team for the Commercial Appeal is Jonah Dillon. He joins us now. Any new insight, any wrinkle you can give us on DeWolzier?
No super new information. I do think what Ryan Silverfield said last night at his radio show was kind of the most information that we got. He said it's not going to be a long-term thing, or at least they hope it's not going to be a long-term thing. Now, obviously, what is long-term, what is short-term, what is day-to-day? We don't know the answers to all these things, but it sounds like it's not as bad as maybe some people thought coming out of the game on Saturday night.
What did you learn about this Memphis football team from that game? You never know how good the first week's opponent is, right? They were a good team last year. They're a little different this year. Same head coach, same philosophy, almost made the playoffs. But that doesn't mean they're going to be that good. They have a new quarterback who had some moments and some, not so good moments in that game. What was the lesson you learned from that exercise on Saturday?
I think it's the running game. The running game is going to be the key to this season. Really, it's going to be the team will go as far as the running game can take it. And I think that sounds to people like, oh, they're going to run the ball. This isn't, I-formation Iowa, line it up and run it up the middle and gain 3 yards every play. This is, a little bit more inventive and a lot of things that are kind of side-to-side movement and different guys getting the ball and stuff like that. But the running game, with or without Greg DeWolzier, is the key to this whole thing. Brendan Lewis's ability, obviously, to run the ball. We saw that a lot. That was impressive. Not super surprising because we knew he could do that. The amount of guys who ran the ball, I thought Frank Peasant was very good. Obviously, we know what Sutton Smith can do, but it was good to see him back out there. And I think with the receiver room, like you looked at it, there's 10 different guys catching passes. There's no true number one threat. I think Cortez Braham obviously is the name you would pick if you had to pick one. But there's concerns there. There were a lot of drops, and that's a concern because there are going to be games where you're going to have to throw the ball. And I don't think they necessarily showed that they're ready to do that, especially if they're in a shootout type game. But I think it's all about the running game. If they can run the ball, and we should expect them to be able to, then this offense is going to be able to move the ball pretty consistently.
A guy I think that bears watching that had that great spring game, I believe I saw that C.J. Smith may actually be on the roster for this week's game.
Yeah, he's added to the depth chart. Obviously didn't play on Saturday. We saw him out there, not dressed out for warm-ups. Ryan Silverfield saying also that he's day-to-day. I think the fact that he was added to the depth chart, probably a positive sign that we could see him. And like you said, he really popped in the spring game. He's somebody who coaches talked really highly of throughout the offseason and has game-breaking speed ability. He's one of the fastest players in the country, right? You saw all the stats, 23 miles an hour and stuff like that. And so he'll give them another element. Now, consistency is going to be the key in the receiver room. And like I said, we didn't necessarily see that on Saturday. If they can find 2 or 3 guys that are consistent, that can catch the ball, especially in short yardage situations, third down situations, that's going to be a key moving forward.
Defensively, I was impressed with the total depth. I'm still not sure about the defensive line, but I'm pretty sure about the defensive backs, and in particular, the linebackers. Yeah,
the linebackers definitely. We talked about that before the season. That's where the talent is on this defense, and I thought they played well. And like you said, the depth. I mean, we heard Jordan Hankins, the defensive coordinator, he said last week before the game, they were going to play more than 3 linebackers. Last year, it was pretty much the 3 guys. They were out there pretty much all the time. Now we're seeing different kind of stuff. DeMarco Ward, who's a converted safety, comes in and gets the pick 6. Cruz Law, who's someone who I wasn't necessarily expecting to play a lot, I thought played really well in that game. And then obviously the 3 starters with Broussard, Watts, and Brumfield, I thought played well too. So, yeah, that linebacker core is going to be the strength. We'll see how many guys they can get on the field on a game-to-game basis. But there's a lot to like so far from what we saw from the defense.
Even this guy, he's like a missile. You could say a cruise missile. Cruz. He's a redshirt freshman. I said, he looked like a missile on that one play, and then of course Jarvis Curry was very quick to go cruise missile. I am really impressed with. I mean, here's a guy who transferred from Florida State. He's a redshirt freshman. This guy could be here for 4 years.
North Carolina, actually, yeah.
North Carolina, I'm sorry.
And somebody who, he's an interesting story because he's from Nashville. He was Mr. Football in Tennessee a couple years ago. So somebody that's well known throughout the state, obviously, went to North Carolina. Didn't really play with his brother, Cade Law, who's also now with the Tigers. And was one of those guys, there's a million guys who kind of transferred out in the spring after Bill Belichick got there. He's one of them. But obviously the talent is there. Comes to Memphis in the spring and is already playing a big role, which is pretty impressive for someone, like you said, who's a redshirt freshman, hasn't played a lot of football at this level, and already just a spring, just in the summer practices was able to get himself on the field and then played like that. So I would expect to see more of it moving forward.
Speaking of guys who've played elsewhere, what do you make of the chances that the Tigers this week will take on a 6'7", 250-pound quarterback who can sling it named TJ Finley on his sixth different school, and two of those have been Power 4 schools that were pretty good, LSU and Auburn?
Yeah, somebody who's played a lot of football, started a lot of games, like you said, across all those different schools, Texas State, and then Western Kentucky, and played a lot. It's a weird situation. He was added to the roster yesterday, and obviously they're going to play on Saturday. Now, if you look at what their coach said, he's been with the team a little bit longer than that, so it's not like he just showed up yesterday and is like, tell me what the plays are and who these people's names are. So I think there's a chance that he could play. Obviously, they played two quarterbacks in their game against Ole Miss on Saturday, and they got blown out. So if they're looking for a spark, that there's one right there on the roster. I think we could see him play. It'd be really interesting to see what, does he know the play? How much has he been playing with those guys, practicing, stuff like that? It's going to be hard to know, and it's hard if you're Memphis to prepare for that because, A, you don't know if he's going to play, and B, you don't know what his kind of status is if he is out there.
I think it's tough when you're playing your third quarterback, too. I mean, because there is a chemistry issue here, and they only did score 7 points in that game. They gave up 63. So let's forget the offense for a minute. Memphis's offense should be able to do something against the defense, albeit we know Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss is really good, but if they scored 63, Memphis should be able to score, I think, consistently against this ball club.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be honest. This game shouldn't be competitive. I think given what we've seen, Georgia State, I know, like you heard Ryan Silverfield talking about a couple of the guys they have that are impressive, and obviously they do. And then we have this TJ Finley situation, which we don't know how that's going to affect the game. Maybe it'll, cause it to be weird early on if he is out there. But in terms of talent, in terms of like overall team, Memphis is better than Georgia State and really should be able to handle them without much like issue, especially in the first half. I wouldn't expect this game to be competitive in the second half, really. If it is, then I think something's probably gone wrong for the Tigers.
And then there's the running back thing that's kind of interesting because Georgia State's got two different Tiger running backs. One that was in camp was a former Ole Miss player in Rashad Amos. And then you've got this other kid that committed to the U of M, TJ, is it Payton or Peyton?
Peyton, yeah.
TJ Payton. And I'm assuming he's going to play too. He never showed up to Memphis. He decommitted.
Yeah, but those are their top two. It was interesting looking at their box score from the game against Ole Miss. Those are their top two running backs. They actually both played pretty well. Didn't get a lot of carries because obviously they were down by a lot and were passing the ball. But both of those guys, have Memphis connections, and so I would expect them both to play again and play consistently on Saturday. Rashad Amos, like you said, was here in the spring, so he's got some familiarity with the Tigers, and obviously the Tigers have familiarity with him. So that's an interesting kind of wrinkle there as you look at the game plan of Memphis. Defensively, they know what this guy can do. They saw it in spring practice. He didn't stay here for all of the spring. He was here for basically a couple weeks, and then he left when in the portal ended up at Georgia State. And so, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
The American had an interesting week with both Tulane and USF still in the show, for sure. You predicted the Tigers 9-3 and 6-3. So you've got them 4-0 beating Arkansas and then losing. Are you staying with that? You do have them losing to both Tulane and South Florida, I believe. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So those look good, but I think you've got them losing at FAU the week after they beat Arkansas. You still want to stick with that one?
Well, look, last year, like I said when I wrote that, last year then nobody was picking them to lose to Navy, and they went and lost to Navy. So these games, you don't know they're going to go. That would be a similar situation, right? Last year, Memphis goes to Florida State, gets a win, then the next week loses to Navy in a game that no one expected them to lose.
But
so
I don't think this FAU team is that Navy team.
Well,
they don't have
say,
a Blake Horvath.
Yeah, FAU, I had a little bit higher hopes for them than what they showed on Saturday against Maryland. That was not a good performance. So if they continue to play like that, then I may have to change that prediction. I think those two teams, look, Memphis can beat those teams. It's not like Tulane and South Florida are like head and shoulders ahead of everybody. I think Memphis can be competitive with those teams. I will say what we were talking about earlier with the receivers and with the passing game, South Florida, you look at that team, especially you look at what happened last time they came to Memphis. Remember that crazy game?
Yes.
They put up, I think it was 59-50 or something. If you're going to be in a shootout, now Memphis won that game because they were going toe-to-toe with them with long pass plays. You're going to have to win games like that. And if it's going to be a shootout, who are you going to favor? The team that has Byron Brown or the team that has questions at receiver and at quarterback, right? So I think those are the things that you want to see as we move towards that point of the season of can Memphis pass the ball consistently, score quickly if they need to, because you are going to have games like that where you're just going to have to put up a lot of points and probably do it pretty quickly.
Here's the thing that scares me most at this point about South Florida is not Brown, and he's a great player, and Memphis might not have won that game. It ended up in Orlando, right? Isn't that where the Tigers played that game? Or was that
last year? Yeah, he didn't play. Yeah,
he got hurt, couldn't play. Remember, he warmed up, and it was all a joke. And he's a great player, and he makes a big difference. But they spent money on defense. Their defensive front was really dominating in that game against Boise. That's what scares me the most. I think USF at this point, although Tulane looked pretty good against Northwestern, but USF, to me, with Brown and that offense and that new defense, they got a new DC. They spent a lot of NIL money on defensive players. That looks pretty darn good to me.
Yeah, that's going to be a good team. I still think Tulane right now, I mean, do our power rankings every week. I kept Tulane at number one because, like you said, they were dominant, 23-3 over Northwestern. Unfortunate for my alma mater, of course, with a pretty terrible performance. Preston Stone, 6 interceptions the entire season when he was a full-time starter last. 4 interceptions in one game against Tulane. Yeah. Not a good start to the season. But I think Tulane, look, all those things you said about South Florida, I mean, Tulane's defensive line causes all sorts of problems, and their linebackers too. So that's a really good defense over there. I think we'll see how South Florida does. They're going to play Florida this week, so obviously a huge opportunity. If they can go be competitive or win that game, then you're having a totally different conversation.
Then they're in the proverbial prime seat, and they still got Miami too, so they can really make themselves an entity here. But they'll be the underdog in both those games. As always, we appreciate it. I'll see you in Atlanta on Saturday, and we'll talk again next Tuesday. Thank you, Jonah.
Yep, sounds good.
That is Jonah Dillon from The Commercial Appeal. He's brought to you by Memphis Public Links. I say this all the time, but I mean it. Great cities always have amenities. Well, you got to have police department. You got to have fire department. We know that. But great cities have great cultural things. They have concerts. They have parks. They've got golf courses. And Memphis understood that like 15 or 20 years ago. They really started investing, and they did a redo on Galloway. They've redone just about every golf course now. And they're gorgeous, and they're in great shape. I had a guy tell me yesterday he played Galloway, couldn't believe that the fairways were in the same condition as many of the great country clubs. That's the truth. And it's so easy. They got their own app now, or you go to memphispubliclinks.com. You can find out all the information about every course. You can make tee times. You can find out about each particular course has a championship tournament. It's so easy, and it's absolutely fun, and they're all in great condition. Golf is a great amenity, and we got great golf courses from Memphis Public Links. Go to the website, memphispubliclinks.com. That'll do it for us today. Tomorrow, the usual suspects. We've got the business of sports. That'll be Joe Dank. Dennis Philippi will start us off. Other surprises coming your way as well. Have a great day, everybody. Johnny Radio is right around the corner.